Hello, and welcome back to Infidelity Tales Lab. We're grateful for each view and comment. Tell us, from which country or city are you watching today? We enjoy connecting with our global audience. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1. Beneath the Surface. Liam Westbrook's life appeared picture-perfect. At 42, he had built a successful security consulting business from the ground up after 15 years in military intelligence. His sprawling home in the suburbs of Portland housed what many considered the ideal family. His wife, Audrey, a pharmaceutical research scientist who had recently been promoted to department head, and their 8-year-old son, Caleb, a sensitive, observant child who inherited his father's sharp eyes and analytical mind. But beneath this glossy exterior, fault lines have been forming. Liam had noticed subtle changes in Audrey's behavior over the past 6 months. Late nights at the lab became more frequent. Weekend emergency calls pulled her away from family outings. Her phone remained permanently face down, and she had changed the passcode twice in recent months. Liam's instincts, honed through years of intelligence work, screamed that something was wrong, but he refused to jump to conclusions. Their marriage had weathered difficult periods before. The grueling years of Audrey's medical research training, Liam's dangerous overseas contracts, the stressful months when Caleb had been hospitalized with a rare infection. They had always emerged stronger. This time, however, the distance between them felt different, charged with something more insidious than mere stress. His suspicions grew when Audrey's cousin Vivian began appearing at their home unannounced. A failed filmmaker with a history of unethical behavior, Vivian had always treated Liam with barely concealed contempt. Her sudden interest in their family life raised immediate red flags. Twice, Liam had walked into rooms to find Audrey and Vivian in hushed conversation that abruptly ceased. Then there was Audrey's new colleague, Dr. Samuel Reeves, who had transferred from a pharmaceutical company in Boston 6 months ago. Samuel started appearing at social gatherings, always standing too close to Audrey, their conversations filled with inside jokes and terminology that excluded everyone else. Liam noticed how Audrey's posture changed around Samuel. More relaxed, more animated. She had begun mentioning him in conversations with increasing frequency, his name falling from her lips with a subtle inflection that made Liam's jaw tighten. One evening, while helping Caleb with homework, Liam noticed his son's unusual reticence. "Everything okay, buddy?" Liam asked, closing the math textbook. Caleb fidgeted with his pencil. "I saw Mom's friend at school yesterday." "Her friend? You mean Samuel?" Caleb nodded. "He was waiting in his car. Mom came out of my classroom after talking to Mrs. Powell. They didn't see me because I was still in the library. They hugged for a really long time." Liam kept his face carefully neutral, though his heart rate accelerated. "Did they say anything?" "Mom said something about November plans and after Thanksgiving. Then they saw my friend Tyler and stopped talking." Caleb looked up, his eyes troubled. "Dad, why would Mom's work friend be at my school?" "I'm not sure," Liam replied evenly, "but I'm going to find out." That night, while Audrey slept, Liam carefully examined their financial records. No unusual withdrawals or transfers, but he discovered Audrey had opened a separate account 3 months earlier. More disturbing was what he found on their shared cloud storage. Deleted photos recovered through a security software revealed Audrey and Samuel together at locations she had claimed to be work conferences, a cabin in the mountains, a Seattle hotel, a beach that Liam recognized as the Oregon coast. Most damning was the discovery of a life insurance policy Audrey had taken out on him 4 months ago for $5 million. The beneficiary was listed as Audrey, with contingencies for Caleb that would place the money in a trust controlled by Audrey's parents, Harold and Elaine Montgomery. The same in-laws who had never approved of Liam, who had always treated him with barely concealed disdain despite his success. The same in-laws who had insisted they host Thanksgiving this year for the first time since Liam and Audrey had married 12 years ago. As dawn broke, Liam sat motionless at his desk, a cold clarity washing over him. The pieces were aligning into a picture too disturbing to ignore. Someone, perhaps several someones, were plotting against him, and his son might be the only one trying to warn him. Liam didn't confront Audrey. Instead, he began making his own preparations. The skills that had kept him alive in hostile territory would now serve to protect him in what had become enemy ground, his own home. Chapter 2. The Thanksgiving Betrayal. The Montgomery estate sat on 3 acres of manicured grounds in Lake Oswego, a monument to Harold's success as a pharmaceutical patent attorney. As Liam pulled up the circular driveway, Caleb unusually quiet beside him. He felt the familiar tension that accompanied every visit. Audrey had driven separately, claiming she needed to arrive early to help with preparations, though Liam noted she had taken an overnight bag for what was supposed to be a day trip. Harold greeted them at the door, his smile not reaching his eyes. "Liam, good to see you." Audrey's in the kitchen with her mother. Liam returned the handshake with measured pressure. "Thanks for hosting, Harold. Smells fantastic." The house bustled with activity. Vivian circulated with a handheld camera, claiming to be documenting family traditions for a new documentary series. Audrey's younger brother Todd and his wife Natalie made polite but distant conversation. Samuel Reeves was there too, introduced to the extended family as Audrey's valued colleague, who had nowhere else to go for the holiday. Throughout the afternoon, Liam observed the subtle glances between Audrey and Samuel, the way Vivian's camera lingered on him during seemingly casual moments, how Harold pulled Samuel aside for what appeared to be private conversations. Most concerning was how everyone fawned over Caleb, with Elaine repeatedly mentioning how the guest room was always ready for her special grandson. When dinner was finally served, Liam and Caleb were seated at one end of the long table, with Audrey between her father and Samuel on the opposite end. As Elaine brought out the elaborately presented plates, Liam noticed Audrey following her mother into the kitchen. When they returned, Audrey placed specific plates in front of Liam and Caleb before taking her seat. Liam began to reach for his fork when Caleb tugged his sleeve. Leaning close, the boy whispered urgently, "Daddy, don't eat the food." "What's wrong, buddy?" Liam asked quietly, noting how everyone at the table seemed to be watching them while pretending not to. Caleb's voice trembled. "I saw Mom put something in our plates." "Only ours." A chill ran through Liam, but he kept his expression neutral. "Are you sure?" Caleb nodded emphatically. "She took something from her pocket. A little packet. She poured on our food when Grandma wasn't looking." Liam laughed as if Caleb had told a joke, but his eyes scanned the room. That's when he noticed Vivian had positioned her camera directly toward their plates, recording under the pretense of capturing dinner conversations. With deliberate casualness, Liam stood, raising his wine glass. "Before we eat, I'd like to propose a toast to Harold and Elaine for this beautiful spread." Everyone reluctantly raised their glasses. "In fact," Liam continued smoothly, "I think our host deserved the places of honor." In a swift motion, he switched his and Caleb's plates with Harold and Elaine's. "Please, enjoy the special portions your daughter prepared." The room froze. Audrey's face drained of color. Samuel half rose from his chair. Vivian's camera remained fixed, now on the elder Montgomery's plates. "What are you doing?" Harold demanded, his voice strangled. "Just sharing the bounty," Liam replied evenly. "Unless there's a reason you shouldn't eat what was meant for me and my son." Elaine looked at the plate before her, then at Audrey with naked panic. "You ungrateful bastard!" Harold exploded, standing so quickly his chair toppled backward. "How dare you insult our hospitality?" Audrey rushed to her father. "Dad, don't. It's not what you think. Not what I think." Liam's voice cut through the chaos, deadly quiet. "Then please explain what my 8-year-old son saw you putting in our food, Audrey." "It's medicine," Audrey blurted. "Caleb's been having stomach issues, and I was giving him digestive enzymes. And you've had heartburn, so I—" "Liar," Caleb shouted, tears streaming down his face. "You told Samuel on the phone that it would work fast and no one would know." The room erupted in shouting. Vivian scrambled to keep recording. Samuel moved toward the door. Natalie pulled out her phone, her face horrified. Through the chaos, Liam locked eyes with his son and gave him a single, reassuring nod. Then he turned to the assembled family, his expression hardening into something none of them had seen before. The face of the man he had once been in dark places far from suburban Portland. "This dinner is over," he announced. "Caleb and I are leaving. Anyone who tries to stop us will regret it." He looked directly at Audrey. And this marriage is over too. Chapter 3. Dark Revelations. 2 days after the Thanksgiving disaster, Liam sat in attorney Deborah Wells's office, laying out what had happened. Deborah, a former prosecutor with a reputation for ruthless efficiency, listened without interruption, taking occasional notes. So my wife and her family tried to poison me and my son, Liam concluded. And I need to know my options. Deborah removed her glasses. Without physical evidence of the substance, it's your word against theirs. We need more. I have this. Liam placed a small vial on her desk. I managed to scrape some residue from the plate before leaving. My son's safety was my priority, but I wasn't walking away empty-handed. Deborah's eyebrows rose. That's extremely resourceful. I'll have it analyzed immediately. There's more, Liam continued. After securing temporary emergency custody of Caleb through Judge Preston, an old military connection, I hired a private investigator. In 48 hours, they've uncovered disturbing information. He placed a folder on the desk. Audrey and Samuel have been involved for at least 8 months. More concerning is their research focus. They're developing a compound that causes cardiac symptoms mimicking natural heart failure, untraceable in standard autopsies. And the $5 million life insurance policy, Deborah murmured, scanning the documents. Exactly. But here's what's truly sinister. Audrey's parents are major investors in a pharmaceutical startup that Samuel secretly heads, a company developing revolutionary cardiac medications. They needed my death to look natural for the insurance payout and to eliminate me as a potential threat once they commercialized their research. And your son? Liam's expression darkened. He wasn't supposed to be targeted, but he began noticing things, asking questions. They realized he could expose them. This is extraordinary, Deborah said, but proving conspiracy to commit murder will be challenging. Audrey has filed counter-allegations claiming you're paranoid and dangerous. The Montgomerys have significant influence. I know. Liam leaned forward. That's why I need your expertise. I won't just be fighting for custody or divorce settlements. I'm fighting to protect my son and expose everyone involved in this plot, no matter the cost. Deborah studied him. This could get ugly. The kind of warfare that leaves no one unscathed. I've been in ugly places before, Liam replied, his voice hardening. The difference is, this time I'm not bound by military rules of engagement. After leaving Deborah's office, Liam drove to a storage facility on the outskirts of Portland. Using a key he hadn't touched in years, he opened a climate-controlled unit containing sealed cases of equipment and documentation from his former life, contingencies he'd maintained even after transitioning to civilian work. As he sorted through the materials, his phone buzzed with an encrypted message from a former colleague, now working in digital intelligence. Analysis complete on cloud backups. Wife's deleted messages recovered. Confirmation of plot involving Samuel Reeves, Harold and Elaine Montgomery, Vivian Patterson. Evidence suggests plan originated 10 months ago. Additional party involved. Todd Montgomery appears to have had reservations, but was aware. We'll continue extraction. Liam pocketed his phone and closed the storage unit, a cold resolve settling in his chest. The people who had plotted against him and threatened his son were about to discover exactly whom they had crossed. His years in military intelligence hadn't just taught him how to identify threats. They had taught him how to dismantle them, piece by methodical piece. The war had begun. Chapter 4. Gathering Storms. 3 weeks after Thanksgiving, Audrey Montgomery Westbrook sat in her attorney's plush office, frustration evident in every line of her body. Her lawyer, Gregory Pennington, a silver-haired man with political connections throughout Oregon, delivered unwelcome news. Judge Preston won't budge on the temporary custody order, he explained. Your husband's evidence, particularly the recording of your son's statements and the preliminary toxicology report, has convinced the court to maintain the status quo until the full hearing. This is absurd, Audrey hissed. Liam has manipulated everything. He's turned my son against me with his paranoid delusions. That toxicology report is probably fabricated. Pennington's expression remained carefully neutral. The judge has ordered independent verification of all evidence. More concerning is your husband's legal team. Deborah Wells has brought in specialists in pharmaceutical litigation and criminal conspiracy. They're building a substantial case. They have nothing, Audrey insisted, though doubt clouded her eyes. Samuel assured me the compound is untraceable. Perhaps in a standard autopsy, Pennington replied carefully. But specialized testing can detect molecular markers. And Ms. Wells has filed motions for access to your research records and laboratory samples. Audrey paled. They can't do that. Those are protected by confidentiality agreements and intellectual property laws. They're arguing public safety concerns and imminent danger. Given the circumstances, they may succeed. Pennington leaned forward. Ms. Westbrook, I need to be perfectly clear. If there's any truth to your husband's allegations, you need to tell me now so I can properly advise you. Audrey's phone buzzed. A text from Samuel. They've frozen the research accounts. Emergency meeting with investors in 30 minutes. She stood abruptly. I need to go. Just do your job and get me access to my son. Across town, in a renovated industrial loft that now served as his temporary home, Liam worked at a sophisticated computer setup. Surrounding him were former colleagues. Maya Daniels, a digital intelligence specialist who had left the military the same time as Liam. Ramon Vega, a behavioral psychologist with expertise in interrogation techniques. And Derek Powell, a forensic accountant whose analysis had helped bring down international criminal networks. The financial web is complex but clear, Derek explained, pointing to a network diagram on the main screen. The Montgomerys diverted nearly $2 million through shell companies to fund Samuel's research. They've been methodically liquidating assets over the past 4 months, right after the life insurance policy was established. Maya nodded, pulling up communication records. Their operational security was amateur at best. Once I accessed Audrey's cloud backups, I found message threads discussing dosages, timing, and creating natural-looking scenarios. Most damning is this exchange between Audrey and her father 3 months ago. She displayed a message thread. Audrey, what if he suspects something? He's always been too perceptive. Harold, that's why Thanksgiving is perfect. Surrounded by family, everyone emotional, no one will question a sudden health crisis. Samuel says cardiac symptoms present almost immediately. We'll call an ambulance, but it will be too late. Audrey and Caleb? Harold, mild dose, just enough for stomach upset. Elaine will insist he stay with us during your grieving period. By the time the will is executed, you'll have full custody, and our path forward is clear. They were planning to use my son as a pawn, Liam said, his voice dangerously steady, to manipulate him while I was eliminated. Ramon studied the psychological profiles he'd assembled. The family dynamics are fascinating. Audrey shows classic narcissistic patterns, while her parents display enabling behaviors motivated by financial gain. Samuel Reeves is the most dangerous, a genuine sociopath with delusions of scientific grandeur. What about Vivian and Todd? Liam asked. Vivian was a willing accomplice, motivated by jealousy of Audrey's success and financial dependence on the Montgomerys. Todd appears more complicated, reluctant, but ultimately complicit. His wife Natalie seems genuinely horrified by what she discovered. She could be valuable. Liam nodded, making a decision. Derek, proceed with the financial strangulation. Maya, release Packet 1 to the Pharmaceutical Board and FDA investigators. Ramon, make contact with Natalie. It's time to isolate the conspirators from each other. As his team dispersed to their tasks, Liam turned to a secure line to call his son, who was staying with Liam's sister Jennifer in Washington State. Though the separation was painful, Liam knew it was necessary until the danger was neutralized. Caleb answered immediately. Dad, when can I come home? Soon, buddy, Liam promised. You're being so brave. Are you doing okay with Aunt Jenny? Yeah, she's nice. We built a snowman yesterday. Caleb's voice dropped to a whisper. Dad, Mom's been trying to call me on Aunt Jenny's phone. Liam's grip tightened on the receiver. What did you tell Aunt Jenny? I remember what you said. I didn't answer and told Aunt Jenny right away. Good job, Caleb. That was exactly right. Liam took a deep breath. I promise we'll be together again soon. I'm working on making everything safe. Are the bad people going to prison? The innocent question hung in the air. Liam considered his response carefully. They're going to face consequences, Caleb. I promise you that. After ending the call, Liam opened a secure safe and removed a small journal, his personal record of the operation unfolding around him. He made several entries before closing it and turning to a chessboard set up in the corner of the room. Each piece represented a player in this deadly game. One by one, he began moving the pieces, plotting the next phase of his strategy. Chapter 5, Fault Lines. Samuel Reeves hurried through the underground parking garage of Montgomery Pharmaceutical Investments, constantly glancing over his shoulder. The past week had unraveled with terrifying speed. Research accounts frozen, FDA investigators appearing at his lab with specific questions about his cardiac compound, and 3 key investors withdrawing support after receiving anonymous information packages. Harold Montgomery was waiting in the rarely used conference room, his normally imperious demeanor replaced by haggard anxiety. "This is a disaster," Harold snapped as Samuel entered. "The board is demanding explanations I can't give. The FDA has requested all research data on compounds P435 and DR82. How could they know those designations?" Samuel demanded. "Those were internal codes only 5 people knew. Obviously, we have a leak." Harold paced the small room. "Westbrook is behind this. He's systematically dismantling everything. We should have been more careful with Vivian," Samuel muttered. "She recorded too much at Thanksgiving. If those videos got out—" "Vivian assured me she deleted everything," Harold interrupted. "But she's been unreachable for 2 days. And now Elaine tells me Todd and Natalie are separating. Natalie moved out yesterday." Samuel sank into a chair. "What about Audrey? Has she secured access to Caleb?" The court denied her motion again this morning. Westbrook's attorney submitted new evidence, something about recorded phone calls between Audrey and the research lab discussing pediatric dosages. Harold's face was ashen. "They're building a case for attempted murder, Samuel. Not just against Audrey, but all of us. That's absurd. They can't prove intent without." The door opened, and Elaine rushed in, her designer outfit incongruous with her panicked expression. "They're here," she hissed. "FDA officials with federal marshals. They're seizing research records and servers." Harold froze. "How did they get a warrant so quickly?" "I don't know, but they specifically mentioned evidence of illegal human testing and conspiracy to commit murder." Elaine clutched her handbag like a shield. "Harold, they know about Thanksgiving. Someone showed them Vivian's video." In that moment, Samuel made a decision. "We need to separate. They can't build a conspiracy case if we maintain independent positions." His mind raced through contingencies. "I'll claim the compound was being developed as a potential treatment, not a weapon. Audrey misunderstood its purpose and acted alone." Harold's face darkened with rage. "You'd throw my daughter under the bus to save yourself?" "It's damage control," Samuel replied coldly. "One person takes the fall, the rest survive. Audrey has no criminal record and a sympathetic background as a mother. With the right attorney, she might." The conference room phone rang, cutting him off. Elaine answered hesitantly, then blanched. "It's for you, Samuel. Someone named Maya Daniels? She says she's with the FBI's Pharmaceutical Crimes Division." Samuel snatched the phone. "This is Dr. Reeves." A cool, professional female voice responded. "Dr. Reeves, I believe you're currently meeting with Harold and Elaine Montgomery to discuss your deteriorating legal situation. I'm calling to inform you that attempting to realign your conspiracy at this point is inadvisable." Samuel felt ice water in his veins. Who is this really? Someone who has been listening to your conversation for the past 15 minutes. Someone who has access to your research notes, including the private journal where you documented testing compound P435 on unwitting patients at Portland Memorial Hospital. Someone who knows about the offshore account in Grand Cayman where you've been funneling research funds. Samuel's hand trembled. "What do you want?" "Just delivering a message. Mr. Westbrook wants you to know your options are limited but available. Cooperation now might mitigate what's coming. Continuing this meeting with the intent to obstruct justice or coordinate your stories, well, that would be unfortunate." The line went dead as federal agents knocked on the conference room door. Across town, Audrey paced her hotel room, waiting for news from her father or Samuel. When her phone finally rang, she answered desperately. "Dad? What happened at the meeting?" "Not Dad," came a familiar female voice. "It's Natalie." Audrey frowned. "Natalie? Why are you calling me?" "Todd said you moved out." "I did, because I can't be part of this anymore." Natalie's voice was strained. "Audrey, I'm calling to warn you. The FDA raided the research facility. They arrested Samuel an hour ago. Your parents are being questioned." "What?" Audrey collapsed onto the bed. "That's impossible. How could they?" "Liam," Natalie said simply. "He's always been 3 steps ahead, and none of you saw it. Do you have any idea who your husband really is? What he did before opening that security consulting firm?" "What are you talking about?" "I looked him up after Thanksgiving. His military service records are mostly classified, but I have a brother in intelligence who recognized his name. Liam wasn't just military, Audrey. He specialized in dismantling terrorist networks and hostile foreign operations. He was legendary for his ability to unravel complex threats without direct confrontation." Audrey's breath caught. "You're lying." "Am I?" "Then explain how within 3 weeks, he's frozen all your assets, turned your research team against you, convinced a judge to deny you access to your son, and just orchestrated the arrest of your lover. He even has Vivian's video, the one she promised she deleted." "How do you know all this?" Natalie hesitated. "Because he approached me the day after Thanksgiving, showed me evidence of what you were all planning, asked if I was involved." Her voice hardened. "I wasn't, Audrey. I had no idea you were trying to murder your husband and drug your child. When I saw the proof, I cooperated." "You betrayed your own family?" Audrey hissed. "No, you betrayed yours when you plotted to kill the father of your child." Natalie shot back. "I'm calling because, despite everything, Todd still cares what happens to you. He convinced Liam to offer you one chance." "What chance?" "Turn state's evidence. Provide testimony against Samuel and your parents. In exchange, the prosecutor will recommend reduced charges, enough that you might see your son again someday, even if it's years from now. And if I refuse, then Liam releases everything, not just to the authorities, but to the media. Every message, every video, every piece of evidence showing you were willing to sacrifice your child to cover up murder. You'll never see Caleb again." The line went silent for several seconds. "I need to think," Audrey finally whispered. "Don't think too long," Natalie replied. "The offer expires in 24 hours. And Audrey, he's watching you. Don't try to run." Chapter 6. Closing the Net. Vivian Patterson huddled in the corner of a downtown Portland coffee shop, nervously checking exits and glancing at her phone. When a woman in a crisp suit sat down across from her, without invitation, Vivian flinched. "You must be Maya," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "Liam's associate." Maya Daniels nodded once. "You brought what was requested?" Vivian slid a thumb drive across the table. "Everything. The original Thanksgiving videos, all the planning meetings I recorded, conversations with Samuel about the compound." She leaned forward urgently. "I want immunity. Full protection." "That's not my decision," Maya replied coolly. "But your cooperation will be noted. The prosecutor appreciates evidence delivered voluntarily rather than seized under warrant." "I was just following Audrey's instructions," Vivian insisted. She said they needed documentation for a potential medical intervention because Liam was becoming erratic. "I never knew they were planning to." "Spare me," Maya interrupted. "Your text messages with Audrey make your knowledge quite clear. You discuss camera angles to capture the moment discreetly when it happens." Vivian paled. "You have my texts." "We have everything, Ms. Patterson. The only question now is whether you'll be charged as an active conspirator or negligent accessory." Maya stood, pocketing the thumb drive. "A federal agent will contact you this afternoon to formalize your statement." As Maya left, Vivian buried her face in her hands, the gravity of her situation finally sinking in. At the temporary command center, Liam reviewed latest developments with his team. The evidence against Samuel Reeves had proven overwhelming once FDA investigators gained access to his research. Harold and Elaine Montgomery remained in questioning, their attorneys desperately trying to distance them from the most serious charges. Todd had cooperated fully after Natalie's intervention, providing crucial details about financial arrangements and family discussions. Audrey is the final piece, Ramon observed. Her testimony would complete the case against all parties. She's weighing her options, Liam replied. The prosecutor's offer expires tomorrow morning. Derek glanced up from his laptop. You think she'll take it? She'll calculate her best chance of eventual access to Caleb, Liam said with cold certainty. Self-preservation has always been her guiding principle. Maya returned, setting the thumb drive on the table. Vivian delivered. She's terrified and trying to minimize her involvement, but the videos are damning. I've sent copies to the prosecutor. Liam nodded his thanks. Any update on Judge Lowell's decision? Just came through, Ramon reported, checking his phone. Permanent sole custody granted. Audrey's visitation rights will depend on the outcome of her criminal case. A weight lifted from Liam's shoulders, the first genuine relief he'd felt in weeks. Caleb would be coming home soon, safe from the people who had betrayed him. There's something else you should see, Maya said, pulling up an email on the main screen. Samuel Reeves is offering a deal. Comprehensive testimony against the Montgomerys and Audrey in exchange for reduced charges. Liam's expression hardened. They're turning on each other, exactly as predicted. Should we inform Audrey? Derek asked. Might motivate her decision. No need, Liam replied. She'll make her choice, believing she still has leverage. Let her illusions remain intact a little longer. Hours later, alone in the loft after his team had departed, Liam received a call from an unknown number. He answered cautiously. How did you do it? Audrey's voice was ragged, unrecognizable. Liam remained silent, letting her continue. I thought I knew you, she continued, a bitter laugh escaping her. Boring, predictable Liam. So focused on your business, so trusting. I never imagined you could dismantle everything so thoroughly. You never bothered to know me, Liam finally replied. You saw what you wanted to see. And Samuel? My parents? What happens to them? That depends on the evidence and their cooperation. The conspiracy was extensive, the intent clear. The consequences will be proportionate. A long pause followed. And me? If I cooperate, you'll face charges. You'll serve time. But you might eventually have supervised visits with Caleb, when he's old enough to decide if he wants to see you. He's my son. Audrey's voice cracked. He was your son, Liam corrected her coldly. The moment you prioritized Samuel and money over his safety, you surrendered that claim. You were willing to drug him to maintain your cover story, to manipulate him during his grief over my death. It wasn't supposed to happen that way, she whispered. But it was supposed to happen, Liam pressed. My death. Your new life with Samuel. The research millions. That was the plan, wasn't it? The silence stretched between them. I'll take the deal, she finally said, defeat evident in every word. My attorney will contact the prosecutor in the morning. A wise choice, Liam replied. The only one you have left. After ending the call, Liam walked to the window overlooking the city lights. In his hand, he held a small photo of Caleb from his last birthday, grinning proudly next to his science project. Tomorrow, Liam would drive to Washington to bring his son home. They would begin rebuilding their lives, free from betrayal. The people who had plotted against them would face justice. Not in the swift, violent manner Liam had once administered in distant conflicts, but through the methodical, inescapable dismantling of their lives, freedom, and futures. A different kind of operation, but with the same ruthless efficiency. Some might call it revenge. Liam simply called it consequences. Chapter 7. Justice and Revelations. 6 months after the Thanksgiving incident, Liam sat in the back row of the federal courthouse, watching as Samuel Reeves was led away in handcuffs. The sentencing had been severe, 18 years for conspiracy to commit murder, illegal human drug testing, and fraud. The judge had been particularly unmoved by Samuel's attempts to portray himself as a misunderstood scientific pioneer. Outside the courtroom, reporters clustered around the prosecutors and investigators who had assembled the case. The story had captured national attention. The pharmaceutical researcher who had tested lethal compounds on unwitting patients, the family conspiracy to commit murder for financial gain, and the intended victim who had systematically exposed it all. Liam avoided the press, slipping out a side entrance where Maya waited in a nondescript sedan. "One down, 3 to go," she commented as he slid into the passenger seat. "Harold and Elaine's sentencing is next week," Liam noted. "Their attorneys are still pushing for leniency based on age and health concerns. Unlikely to succeed, given the evidence of their involvement in planning," Maya replied, pulling into traffic. The recordings Vivian provided were particularly damning, especially the dinner party where Harold discussed the convenience of your planned cardiac event. "And Audrey's plea deal is holding?" Maya nodded. 10 years with possibility of parole after 7, in exchange for her complete testimony. "The prosecutor believes it's appropriate given her cooperation." Liam gazed out the window, his expression unreadable. "She'd hoped for less." "She's fortunate to have any deal at all," Maya said firmly. The evidence against her was overwhelming. Without her cooperation, she'd be looking at the same sentence as Samuel. As they drove toward Liam's new home, a secluded property outside Portland, where he and Caleb had relocated after the case became public, Liam reflected on the journey of the past 6 months. The trial process had been grueling, requiring Caleb to testify about what he had witnessed at Thanksgiving. The boy had shown remarkable resilience, but Liam knew the scars would take time to heal. "How's Caleb doing with the new therapist?" Maya asked, as if reading his thoughts. "Better," Liam replied. "Dr. Harmon specializes in childhood trauma. She's helping him process everything in age-appropriate ways." "And the nightmares?" "Less frequent now. He still asks about Audrey sometimes. Not wanting to see her, just trying to understand why his mother would do what she did." Maya glanced at him. "That's a difficult question to answer. I tell him the truth in terms he can understand. That sometimes people make terrible choices when they want things more than they care about hurting others. That what happened wasn't his fault." Liam's jaw tightened. "And that he's safe now." When they reached the house, Caleb was in the yard with Jennifer, Liam's sister, who had relocated to Portland to help with his care. The boy ran to his father, and Liam lifted him in a fierce embrace. "Did the bad doctor go to jail?" Caleb asked. "Yes," Liam answered simply. "He can't hurt anyone anymore." Later that evening, after Caleb was asleep, Liam sat on the back porch with Jennifer, watching the stars emerge above the tree line. "I received a letter from Audrey's attorney today," he said quietly. "She's requesting photos of Caleb. Says she wants to see how he's growing." Jennifer's expression hardened. After everything she did, the absolute nerve. "I'm not responding," Liam stated flatly. "The custody agreement is clear. No contact until Caleb is 16 and can make his own decision. Even then, only if a therapist confirms it wouldn't be harmful." "You've been more merciful than most would be," Jennifer observed, agreeing to those terms rather than pushing for permanent separation. Liam's gaze remained fixed on the distant stars. "It's not mercy. It's recognition that someday Caleb might have questions only she can answer. I won't deny him that possibility when he's old enough to handle it." "And the Montgomerys? Any contact from them?" Their attorney suggested a financial settlement, college funds for Caleb, compensation for family disruption. As if money could erase what they tried to do. A cold smile touched Liam's lips. "I declined. They'll need whatever assets remain for their own legal expenses." Jennifer studied her brother's profile. "You know, when you first told me what happened, I couldn't believe Audrey was capable of such betrayal. But watching the evidence unfold, seeing the calculating way she planned everything," she shook her head. "I don't think I ever really knew her." "Neither did I," Liam admitted. "Or perhaps I didn't want to see the truth. There were signs, small inconsistencies, moments when her mask slipped. I dismissed them because it was easier than confronting the possibility that the mother of my child could be so fundamentally dishonest. You couldn't have known they would go this far." "Perhaps not, but I should have trusted my instincts sooner." Liam's expression softened as he thought of his son sleeping peacefully inside. "At least Caleb did. He saved both our lives with his observation skills and courage." "He's your son, after all," Jennifer said gently. "More like you than you sometimes realize." As night deepened around them, Liam allowed himself to acknowledge a truth he rarely voiced. The path ahead would be difficult, but for the first time in years, it was authentically theirs. No more lies, no more masks. Just a father and son rebuilding their lives on solid ground. The justice system would deal with those who had plotted against them, but the true victory lay in what they had preserved: their lives, their bond, and their future together. Chapter 8. Calculated Measures. 1 year after Samuel Reeves' sentencing, Todd Montgomery sat across from Liam in a quiet corner of a downtown restaurant. Unlike his sister or parents, Todd had received a suspended sentence and probation in exchange for his early and comprehensive cooperation. "Thank you for meeting me," Todd said, his once confident demeanor now subdued. "I wasn't sure you would." "You were the only one who expressed genuine remorse," Liam replied, studying the man who had once been his brother-in-law. "And according to Natalie, you tried to discourage the plan." "Not forcefully enough," Todd admitted, staring into his coffee. "I knew what they were planning was wrong, but I told myself it wasn't my business. That family loyalty meant looking the other way." He met Liam's gaze directly. "I was a coward." Liam didn't contradict him. "Why did you request this meeting?" Todd reached into his jacket and withdrew an envelope. "Documents you should have. Financial records showing my parents' established trust fund for Caleb that weren't disclosed during the legal proceedings. They're hidden in offshore accounts, technically untraceable." Liam took the envelope without opening it. "Why tell me this now?" "Because Caleb deserves whatever remains of my family's fortune after their legal expenses. Not as blood money or compensation, but as his rightful inheritance." Todd's hands trembled slightly. "And because I'm trying to live with what I allowed to happen. Keeping this secret would just be another betrayal." Liam studied him for a long moment. "Have you visited your parents?" Todd nodded. "Monthly. Prison has broken my father. His health is deteriorating. My mother maintained she was just following his lead, though the evidence clearly showed her active participation." He hesitated. "They ask about Audrey. And do you visit her as well?" "I tried. She refused to see me after I testified against her." Todd's expression darkened. "She still believes she might have gotten away with everything if the family had maintained a united front. She doesn't understand that you had already assembled enough evidence to convict everyone, regardless of my testimony." Liam remained silent, allowing Todd to continue. "Natalie and I are divorcing," Todd added. "Too much damage. Too many lies between us now. She deserved better than being dragged into my family's madness." "She made her own choices," Liam observed, "choosing justice over misplaced loyalty. A choice I should have made sooner." Todd pushed his coffee aside. "There's one more thing you should know. Samuel has been attempting to contact scientific journals from prison, trying to publish his research findings. The authorities have blocked his communications, but he's persistent." Liam's expression hardened. "His research was built on illegal human testing and murder attempts. It will never see the light of day." "I agree. I just thought you should be aware." Todd hesitated. "How is Caleb doing?" For the first time, Liam's expression softened slightly. "He's resilient, doing well in school. His therapist says he's processing everything in healthy ways." "Does he ever ask about Audrey?" "Sometimes. I don't lie to him, but I keep explanations age-appropriate." Todd nodded, understanding the boundaries. "I should go. Thank you for hearing me out." He stood, then paused. "For what it's worth, I'm truly sorry for my part in all this. Not just for failing to stop it, but for not seeing who my sister had become." After Todd left, Liam examined the documents, confirming the existence of several trust accounts containing nearly $3 million combined. Money that rightfully belonged to Caleb, though tainted by its source. He would consult with his attorney about legal options for securing these funds while maintaining distance from the Montgomery family. That evening, as became his custom on difficult days, Liam called Ramon for perspective. "Todd seems genuinely remorseful," Ramon observed after hearing about the meeting. His psychological profile always suggested he was the least committed to the conspiracy. "Remorse doesn't change what happened," Liam replied, "or the fact that he knew what they were planning and remained silent until after the fact. True, but his continuing cooperation suggests he's trying to make amends in the only ways available to him." Ramon's voice softened. How are you processing all this, Liam? It's been a year of constant legal battles and rebuilding your life. I'm focused on Caleb, on making sure he grows up secure and psychologically healthy despite what happened. And yourself? Have you considered the therapy options we discussed? Liam gazed out at the darkening sky. I've spent my career compartmentalizing trauma, Ramon. This is no different. This is entirely different, Ramon countered. This was family betrayal, not combat or intelligence operations. Personal betrayal requires different processing. After ending the call, Liam checked on Caleb, who was completing a science project in his room. The boy looked up with a smile that still contained traces of innocence despite everything he had experienced. Need any help? Liam asked, sitting on the edge of the bed. I think I've got it, Caleb replied, carefully positioning a model planet. Dad, I heard you talking to Uncle Todd today. Liam stilled. You were supposed to be at Jennifer's. We came back early because I forgot my science book. Caleb fidgeted with the planet. Is he sorry for what they did to us? Liam chose his words carefully. He says he is, and his actions suggest he's trying to make amends. But you don't forgive him, Caleb observed with the perceptiveness that had saved their lives. No, Liam admitted. I don't. Caleb considered this. Is it bad that I don't forgive them either? Mom, Grandma and Grandpa, Dr. Samuel, they try to hurt us. Liam pulled his son close. Forgiveness is a choice, Caleb, not an obligation. Especially when those who hurt you haven't truly understood the harm they caused. What matters is that we don't let what happened define our future or harden our hearts toward everyone. Like Maya and Ramon and Derek. They helped us. Exactly. And Jennifer and your teachers and your friends. The world is full of good people who can be trusted. Liam kissed the top of Caleb's head. We just need to be wiser about recognizing the ones who can't. As Caleb returned to his project, Liam reflected on the irony. His military training had taught him to identify and neutralize threats, to dismantle networks of dangerous people. He had applied those skills flawlessly to expose the conspiracy against him. Yet he had failed to recognize the threat within his own home until it was nearly too late. That failure had almost cost both their lives. It was a mistake he would never make again. Chapter 9. Immutable Truths. 5 years after the Thanksgiving that changed everything, Liam Westbrook stood at the observation window of a federal correctional facility, watching as Audrey was led into the visitation room. This was their first face-to-face meeting since the trial, arranged at her persistent request through her attorney. She had aged in prison. The designer clothes and perfect appearance were replaced by standard-issue garments and a face stripped of artifice. She sat at the table, hands folded, eyes fixed on the door through which Liam would enter. Outside in the hallway, Ramon placed a hand on Liam's shoulder. You don't have to do this. Whatever closure she's seeking, you don't owe it to her. This isn't about closure for her, Liam replied. It's about getting answers that might help Caleb someday. Questions he'll eventually ask that I can't answer. And if she lies, manipulates, she hasn't shown genuine remorse in any of her appeals or statements. I've spent my career distinguishing truth from deception, Ramon. Oh no. Inside the visitation room, Audrey straightened as Liam entered. Her eyes traveled over him, noting the confidence in his posture, the clarity in his gaze, the absence of the vulnerability she had once exploited. You look well, she offered as he sat across from her. Why did you request this meeting, Audrey? Liam asked, bypassing small talk. She studied him, direct as always. I wanted to see you, to explain things that might help us move forward. There is no us moving forward, Liam clarified. I'm here because you might someday have a relationship with our son, and I need to understand the version of events you'll present to him. Audrey's expression tightened momentarily. How is Caleb? Thriving. 13 now. Excellent student, especially in science and observation skills. Healthy relationships with friends and family. Does he ask about me? Sometimes. I tell him the truth, that you made choices that hurt people, that you're serving time for those choices, and that when he's older, he could decide if he wants contact with you. Audrey nodded slowly. Fair enough. She hesitated. I didn't come into our marriage planning betrayal, Liam. You should know that. When did it change? When Samuel joined the research department, he had vision and ambition. He saw potential in compounds that others dismissed. A flash of the old intensity crossed her face. The cardiac formulation could have revolutionized treatment protocols. The side effects could have been refined with proper testing. You mean the side effects that would have killed me and sickened our son? Audrey had the grace to look away. It became complicated. Samuel and I grew closer. My parents saw the financial potential. One decision led to another until suddenly we were discussing dosages instead of ethics. She met his gaze again. It was wrong. Unforgivable. I know that now. Yet your appeals have consistently argued that you were manipulated by Samuel, coerced by your parents, unaware of the full implications, Liam observed. Which version is true, Audrey? Both in ways. She leaned forward. I was seduced by Samuel's vision and my parents' approval, but I also made conscious choices. The truth is more complicated than legal arguments can capture. And Caleb? Was drugging our son your idea or theirs? Pain flashed across her face, the first genuine emotion Liam had seen. Not mine. Never. Harold suggested it when we realized Caleb was becoming suspicious. I initially refused, but they convinced me a mild dose would only cause temporary discomfort, giving us time to... She stopped. To manage the aftermath of my death, Liam finished coldly. Audrey nodded, unable to meet his eyes. Yet you placed that compound on his plate yourself. I saw the security footage from the kitchen. No one forced your hand. By then, I had convinced myself it was necessary, that we had gone too far to turn back. She looked up, tears forming. I've had 5 years to replay those moments, Liam, to recognize the person I became. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even know if I deserve the possibility of seeing Caleb someday. That will be his decision when he's 16, as agreed in the custody arrangement, Liam stated firmly. I won't influence him either way. That's more than I deserve, she acknowledged. Thank you for that, at least. As the meeting concluded, Audrey asked one final question. Do you ever think about what might have been? If we had just been honest with each other from the beginning. Liam paused at the door. No, I don't live in hypotheticals, Audrey. Only realities. His expression was implacable. The reality is that you plotted to murder me and endanger our son for money in a relationship with a man who has shown no more loyalty to you than you showed to us. Those choices defined you more clearly than our years of marriage ever did. Outside the prison, Ramon waited by the car. Get what you needed? Liam nodded. Confirmation of what I suspected. She acknowledges her actions, but still sees herself partially as a victim of circumstance. If Caleb ever chooses to see her, he'll need to understand that pattern. And you? What did you get from this? Certainty, Liam replied simply. Final confirmation that the path I chose was the only one possible. Back home, Liam found Caleb and Jennifer preparing dinner. The boy, nearly a teenager now, had his father's observant eyes and analytical mind, but had somehow retained a capacity for joy despite the trauma of his early years. How was your meeting? Jennifer asked quietly when Caleb went to set the table. Illuminating, Liam replied. She's still the person she revealed herself to be 5 years ago, just with better awareness of her actions. Will you tell Caleb you saw her? Yes. No more secrets in this family. Later that evening, Liam sat with his son on their back porch, the same spot where he had once discussed betrayal with Jennifer years earlier. He explained the meeting in age-appropriate terms, answering Caleb's questions honestly but carefully. Do you think people can really change, Dad? Caleb asked, staring at the stars. They can, Liam replied thoughtfully. But true change requires more than regret or consequences. It requires deep understanding of the choices made and the harm caused. The willingness to make amends without expectation of forgiveness. Like Todd, try and help us, even though you'll never forgive him. Liam smiled at his son's perceptiveness. Exactly like that. I don't think I want to see Mom when I turn 16, Caleb admitted. Maybe later, when I'm older. Is that okay? That's entirely your choice, Caleb. There's no right or wrong decision, and no timeline but your own. As darkness settled around them, Liam reflected on the journey of the past 5 years. The conspiracy that had nearly destroyed them had been dismantled piece by methodical piece. Justice had been served through the legal system rather than personal vengeance, though the outcomes were ultimately the same. Those who had plotted against them had lost their freedom, their reputations, their futures. More importantly, he and Caleb had built something new from the ashes of betrayal. A relationship founded on absolute honesty, mutual respect, and the unshakable knowledge that they could trust each other completely. In a world where trust had proved so fragile, that bond was their greatest achievement. Some might call it a happy ending. Liam simply called it truth, immutable and hard won. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.